Hera sat at her small office desk during lunch, scrolling through her phone to distract herself from another long, tiring day. Her thumb stopped mid-scroll when a photo appeared on her screen. For a second, she couldn't breathe. It was her entire family, her parents, her two brothers, her sister, even her cousins, all smiling at a beautiful beach resort. The same resort she had dreamed about for months. The same trip she had worked double shifts to pay for. She zoomed in on the picture, her hands shaking. Everyone looked happy, relaxed, glowing under the sun. Everyone except her, because she wasn't there. Her heart began to pound as she scrolled through more photos. They had gone on the vacation without her. The one she planned. The one she paid for. Her throat felt dry, and tears began to fill her eyes. With trembling fingers, she opened her messages and typed, "Hey Mom, when did you all go?" She waited, staring at the screen, hoping it was just a misunderstanding. Seconds later, her phone buzzed with a reply that shattered her completely. "The whole family went last week. That was it. No apology. No explanation." Just a cold, casual message like it was nothing. Hera kept staring at the screen, reading those words over and over again. Her chest tightened as anger and pain fought inside her. How could they do this? How could they leave her behind after all she had done? Her mind went back to the late nights she spent working, the endless hours at the hospital, and the excitement she felt when she told her parents she'd booked the trip for everyone. She remembered her father smiling and saying, "You're such a blessing, Hera." But now it all felt like a cruel joke. She had imagined laughter, bonding, and family memories. Instead, they had taken her dream and lived it without her. The sound of laughter from the office break room felt far away. Hera couldn't even taste her lunch anymore. Everything inside her felt numb. She locked her phone, placed it face down on the desk, and stared blankly at the wall. It wasn't just about the vacation. It was about everything. Every time she was forgotten, overlooked, or treated like she didn't belong. In that quiet office, surrounded by strangers, Hera realized something painful but clear. Her family had gone on the trip she built with love, and left her behind without a second thought. Months before that heartbreaking moment, Hera had poured everything she had into making her family's dream vacation come true. Working as a nurse wasn't easy. The long hours, sleepless nights, and constant emergencies left her body drained, but she didn't complain. Every time she got her paycheck, she put a little aside, skipping small joys just to save enough for her family. She remembered counting her savings one night in her tiny apartment, smiling to herself, imagining her parents laughing on the beach, her siblings running into the waves, and everyone finally relaxing after so many years of struggle. It was supposed to be their first real family vacation, something special to celebrate how far they had come. When she finally had enough money, she made the payment in full and surprised her family with the news. Her mother gasped with joy, her siblings cheered, and her father hugged her tightly. "You're such a blessing, Hera. You'll be there front and center," he said proudly. Hearing those words made every sleepless night worth it. For days, she lived on that happiness, imagining their smiles and the warm memories they would create together. She told her colleagues at work that she'd soon be going on a long-awaited family trip. They congratulated her, saying she deserved it. But as the days passed, her family grew strangely quiet about the vacation details. Every time she asked about the travel plans, her mother would say, "We'll update you soon," and change the topic. Hera assumed they were still organizing things. Meanwhile, she kept working overtime, covering extra shifts so she wouldn't have worry about money during the trip. She wanted to be free, to finally rest. Then, on the day she saw those photos online, everything she had worked for turned to dust. While she was rushing through hospital corridors, helping patients and skipping her breaks, her family was sunbathing by the ocean she had dreamed of seeing with them. She imagined her father lying under a beach umbrella, her mother sipping juice by the water, her siblings laughing, all enjoying the trip she built with her hard work. The thought pierced her like a knife. She wasn't just left behind. She was forgotten by the very people she had given everything for. That night, as she looked at her tired reflection in the mirror after another long shift, she realized something had changed forever. The vacation she paid for had become a symbol of how little her love meant to them, and how much she had lost trying to please everyone but herself. That evening, Hera sat on her bed with her phone in her hand, staring at her mother's message again and again. Her heart ached, but she needed to hear her mother's voice, to understand why they had done it. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there was some reason that would make the pain easier to bear. With trembling hands, she pressed the call button. Her mother picked up after a few rings, her voice bright and cheerful, as if nothing had happened. "Oh, Hera. How are you, my dear?" she said casually. Hera swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice steady. "Mom, I saw the photos. You all went to Zanzibar last week." There was a pause, then a small laugh from the other end of the line. "Oh, that? We thought you were too busy, dear. You work so hard all the time. We didn't want to bother you." Hera blinked in disbelief. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. "But it was my idea," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I planned it for everyone. I saved for it. I wanted us all to go together." Her mother's tone changed slightly, not apologetic, but dismissive, like she was talking to a child who didn't understand how things worked. "You'll understand when you have your own family," she said. "Sometimes things just happen differently than we plan." Before Hera could respond, before she could even process those words, the call ended. Her mother had hung up. Hera sat there, frozen, staring at her phone screen as silence filled the room. The cheerful tone of her mother's voice echoed in her ears, mixing with the sting of her last words. "You'll understand when you have your own family." What did that even mean? Wasn't she part of the family too? Her chest tightened as tears welled up in her eyes. She lay back on her bed, clutching her pillow, and the tears finally spilled out. She cried quietly at first, then harder, until her pillow was soaked and her body trembled from the sobs. Every word from that call replayed in her mind like a cruel reminder. The laugh, the excuse, the click. It wasn't just that they left her behind. It was the way they made it seem like it didn't matter. Like she didn't matter. That night, Hera felt a kind of loneliness she had never known before. The family she worked so hard to care for had erased her from a memory she created with love. It was no longer just about the trip. It was about realizing that even love, when given to the wrong people, could leave you completely invisible. The next morning, Hera woke up with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those beach pictures, her family laughing together while she was alone in her small apartment, crying into her pillow. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a message from Tyro, her childhood friend, the one person who had always seen through her fake smiles. "You okay?" he wrote. "I saw your family's pictures. You didn't go." For a few seconds, Hera just stared at the message. She didn't know how to reply. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed, then erased, then typed again. Finally, she wrote the truth. "No. I paid for it, but they left me behind." She hit send and dropped her phone beside her. It took a while before Tyro replied, but when he did, his words went straight through her heart. "Maybe it's time you stop investing in people who only take." Hera read the message again and again. It was simple, but it hit harder than any argument or comfort could. She felt something shift inside her. For years, she had been the giver. The one who always made sure everyone else was fine, even when she wasn't. She helped her siblings pay for school fees, bought her parents gifts on every holiday, and covered bills without being asked. She thought that was love. She thought that was what family was supposed to be. But now, looking at everything they had done, she realized something painful. This wasn't the first time they had made her feel like she didn't belong. Growing up, her siblings would make decisions without her. Her parents would praise everyone else's achievements but treat hers like they were nothing special. Whenever she tried to express how she felt, her mother would call her too emotional. Hera had spent years trying to earn the love that should have come freely. Tyro's words echoed in her mind for the rest of the day. Stop investing in people who only take. She thought about how easily her family had enjoyed something she had built with love, how effortlessly they erased her from the picture, literally and emotionally. That was the moment Hera stopped making excuses for them in her head. She realized love shouldn't make you small or invisible. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to take all the love she kept giving away and finally start giving some to herself. When her family finally returned from their trip, Hera expected at least a little guilt, maybe an apology or even a simple explanation. But when they walked through the front door of her parents' house, laughing and chatting about the beach, it was as if nothing had happened. No one mentioned her absence. No one said sorry for leaving her behind. They talked about the ocean, the food, the hotel, and the fun they had, while Hera sat quietly on the couch, her heart aching. She listened as her siblings compared tans and laughed about their adventures, every word reminding her that they had shared a memory she was never meant to be part of. Then her mother reached into her bag and handed her a small keychain with Zanzibar written across it in bright letters. "Souvenir for you," she said with a proud smile, as if the cheap trinket could make up for everything. Hera looked at the little piece of plastic in her hand, something that probably cost less than a bottle of water, and forced a smile. "Thanks," she whispered softly. Her mother nodded, completely unaware of the storm building behind her calm eyes. For the rest of the evening, Hera stayed quiet. She helped set the table, served food, and listened as they continued to relive the trip in detail. Her sister showed off photos on her phone, her father laughed so hard that tears rolled down his cheeks, and her cousins made plans for their next vacation. Not one of them noticed the pain written all over Hera's face. Not one person thanked her for paying for it all. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Hera sat alone in the living room. The souvenir keychain lay on the table in front of her, its bright colors now dull under the dim light. She stared at it for a long time, feeling a strange calm settle over her chest. It wasn't anger anymore. It was something deeper, a quiet decision forming in her heart. She realized she had spent her entire life giving, hoping that one day they would see her, appreciate her, include her. But they never would. That night, something inside her shifted. She decided that this would be the last time they took advantage of her kindness. From that moment on, she would stop waiting for love that hurt and start learning how to love herself instead. After that day, Hera changed quietly. There was no big argument, no shouting, no dramatic goodbye. She simply pulled back. The daily phone calls she used to make to check on everyone stopped. The money transfers she sent every month for groceries and small household expenses stopped too. At first, no one noticed. But after a few weeks, her mother called and asked, "Hera, is everything okay? You haven't called in a while." Hera smiled faintly, even though her heart felt heavy. "I'm fine, Mom. Just busy with work," she said calmly. Her mother hesitated and then added, "Are you still upset over that trip? You're too sensitive sometimes." Hera wanted to say a lot of things, about how she felt invisible, how deeply they hurt her, how unfair it was, but she didn't. Instead, she just said, "I'm fine really." But inside, Hera knew she wasn't the same anymore. The part of her that used to crave their approval had finally grown quiet. For the first time in her life, she stopped trying to prove her worth to people who didn't see it. She realized her kindness had become something they expected, not something they valued. So instead of wasting energy on people who only took, she began to focus on herself. Every extra shift she worked, every extra penny she earned, she saved it, not for another family trip, but for her own future. Her evenings became different. Instead of scrolling through messages from home or waiting for their calls, she spent her nights reading, researching, and dreaming. She looked up business courses online and watched videos about financial independence. She started writing down her ideas, maybe a small wellness clinic, maybe something that could help people heal, something that would make her proud. Slowly, the pain that once kept her awake at night turned into motivation. At work, her colleagues noticed the change too. Hera seemed more focused, calmer, more determined. She spoke less but smiled more, not the fake smiles she used to give to please people, but real ones that came from quiet confidence. She had learned something powerful, that peace grows when you stop begging others to care. Months passed, and her savings grew. She didn't brag or post about it. She didn't tell anyone what she was planning. But every time she saw that old Zanzibar keychain hanging by her mirror, it reminded her of her promise. Never again would she let others spend her love like it was free. This time, everything she was building would be hers. A year passed quietly, and Hera had changed in more ways than anyone could imagine. She no longer chased after people's approval, or tried to fix every broken thing in her family. Instead, she poured her heart into her dream, her own wellness center. Every day after work, she spent hours planning, designing, and meeting people who could help her bring the idea to life. The same money she once used to take care of everyone else now went into something that truly belonged to her. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Piece by piece, her dream started to take shape. When the construction was complete, Hera stood in front of the building with tears in her eyes. The walls were painted in calming colors. The sign above the door proudly carried her name, and everything inside reflected peace and healing. Two things she had fought hard to find. She knew this was her new beginning, but before opening the doors to the public, she wanted one thing: for her family to see it. Not out of revenge, but because she wanted them to understand that the woman they left behind on that vacation had built something far greater. So she designed simple invitation cards and mailed them out. Each one said, "You are invited to a special event. Dress nicely." No more details, no explanation. A week later, her phone rang. It was her mother. Her voice was cheerful and curious. "Hera, what should we pack? Swimsuits or dresses?" she asked, half joking, half expecting another all-paid family trip. Hera smiled softly and replied, "Just bring your best behavior, Mom." The day of the event arrived. Her family showed up excited and confused. They drove to the address on the card, expecting a beach resort or some fancy vacation house. But when they arrived, their faces went pale. In front of them stood a modern building with a beautiful sign that read, "Serenity Wellness Center, founded by Haram Thembu." They looked around, speechless. The crowd of guests, photographers, and journalists buzzed with excitement. Hera walked out wearing a simple white dress and a calm smile. Her mother blinked in disbelief, whispering, "This is yours?" Hera nodded gently. "Yes," she said. "Every part of it." At that moment, her family realized what she had done. The woman they once ignored had built something powerful. And this time, she didn't need anyone's permission to shine. The hall was filled with soft music and the quiet hum of people talking as Hera stood at the front of the room, her heart steady but full. Investors, journalists, old colleagues, and her family were all seated, waiting to hear her speak. She looked around and spotted her parents sitting near the front. Her mother was smiling nervously, and her father avoided her eyes. Hera took a deep breath, holding the microphone with calm confidence. This was the moment she had worked for, not just to open a business, but to close an old wound. She began with a gentle smile. "A year ago," she said, her voice clear and steady, "I paid for a family trip I was never invited to." The room fell silent. Everyone turned toward her, curious. Hera's eyes softened as she continued. "At first, that moment broke me. I felt forgotten, unimportant, invisible. But I realized something. Sometimes, exclusion is just redirection. Sometimes, the people who leave you out are pushing you toward the life you're meant to create." Her words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. She looked at her family again. Her mother's smile had faded and tears were forming in her eyes. Her father stared down at his hands, unable to meet her gaze. Hera kept going, not with anger, but with strength. "I built this place," she said, gesturing around the beautiful wellness center, "because I learned that love should never make you smaller. It should never demand you to shrink so others can feel comfortable." The audience was silent, completely drawn in. Some nodded, others wiped tears. Hera paused for a moment, letting her words sink in before she smiled again. "This center is not just a building. It's a reminder that pain can be turned into purpose, that you can build peace from the same bricks that once built your heartbreak." As she finished, the crowd erupted into applause. It wasn't the polite kind. It was the kind that comes from people who truly felt every word. Hera bowed her head slightly, humbled but proud. In the front row, her mother lifted her trembling hands to clap, but her eyes were filled with guilt and regret. Her father clapped too, but his face was pale, his shoulders heavy. For the first time, Hera didn't feel small in their presence. She didn't feel like the forgotten daughter or the outsider. She felt powerful, calm and free, standing in front of everything she built from her pain, finally knowing she had turned her heartbreak into something beautiful. After the event ended and the guests began mingling, Hera stood near the entrance, shaking hands and thanking everyone for coming. Laughter and music filled the air, but she could feel a pair of eyes watching her. When she turned, she saw her parents walking slowly toward her. They looked nervous, almost out of place among the confident crowd. Her mother's hands were clasped tightly together, and her father's usual proud posture was gone. They stopped a few feet away from her, unsure of how to start. Her father was the first to speak. He cleared his throat softly, avoiding her eyes. "We made a mistake, Hera," he said, his voice low but filled with regret. Her mother nodded quickly beside him, trying to smile but failing. We didn't realize how much it hurt you, she said, her eyes shining with guilt. For a moment, Hera just looked at them. The same people who once dismissed her feelings, who thought her love and effort were things they could take for granted. But this time, she didn't feel anger. She didn't even feel the need to argue. She just felt a calm understanding of how far she had come. You didn't need to realize, she said softly, her voice steady and clear. You just needed to care. Her words landed gently but deeply, leaving her parents speechless. They looked at her, their eyes full of the apologies they never knew how to say before. Hera smiled faintly, not out of bitterness, but out of peace. It's okay, she added quietly, then turned toward a group of guests waiting to speak with her. As she walked away, her long dress swayed behind her, and for the first time, she didn't feel the weight of their expectations or the pain of their neglect. Her parents stood silently, watching her move through the crowd, confident, warm, and completely in control of her own story. That moment said everything. Hera didn't need their approval anymore. She had already forgiven them in her own way, but she didn't need to prove it. She had built something greater than revenge, a life that spoke louder than any apology. As the night went on, she continued greeting her guests with grace, her laughter genuine and free. That day wasn't just the opening of her wellness center. It was the start of a new chapter, one where Hera finally chose herself, and for the first time, her happiness belonged only to her. Months later, Hera sat by the large window of her office, a warm cup of tea resting in her hands. Sunlight poured in, casting soft patterns across the room. Her wellness center had grown beyond her dreams. People from across the city came not just for the services, but for the calm and care she had built into every corner. Journalists had written stories, investors praised her vision, and her team thrived under her quiet guidance. She watched the city below and felt a peace she had never known before, a peace that didn't need anyone's approval or praise. Her phone buzzed sometimes. It was usually her mother calling, trying to reconnect, asking about her life, hinting at old regrets. Hera answered politely, her voice calm and steady. She no longer let their guilt pull at her heart. She had learned that love and forgiveness didn't mean giving away her peace. She listened, she smiled, but she never lost herself in the tides of their expectations or their past mistakes. Looking around her office, she thought about everything that had led her here. The heartbreak of being left out, the lonely nights of crying into her pillow, the moment she realized she needed to stop giving her love where it was taken for granted. It had all shaped her. The pain had become her fuel, her guide toward a life that truly belonged to her. She remembered the Zanzibar trip, the photos she'd stumbled upon, the small keychain. Every memory now felt like a step toward the woman she had become. Hera placed her cup of tea down and rested her hands on the desk. She smiled softly, looking out the window at the bustling streets below. No one could take her peace from her. No one could erase the life she had built. She whispered to herself, almost like a secret for the city to hear. I gave them a vacation they didn't deserve, but I gave myself a life they'll never forget. And in that moment, Hera wasn't just proud of her wellness center or the recognition she had earned. She was proud of herself, for standing tall, for choosing her own happiness, and for turning the heartbreak of being left behind into a future that shone brighter than she had ever imagined. For the first time, she felt completely free.